2024 will come to order in the boardroom. Do we have any members of the public present? Okay, great. I will dispense with that. I will jump into the first item of discussion. We've got a lot to cover today. We have 14 items, so let's get going. Items for discussion, the mentorship opportunity. Who is taking that one?
This is one that you put on, and as far as mentorship opportunities, we give you an update on what we're doing currently, but I didn't know if you had, okay, so just updates on our current scholarships and mentorships.
So 2 weeks ago, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we met with Christine Correo from San Marcos Unified, and we had a good conversation with her, and she suggested that there might be, she's the CTE coordinator at San Marcos Unified, and out of that meeting came a suggestion that there might be opportunities for high school students to have a mentorship opportunity with someone at the water district that would be, you know, perhaps meeting once a week for 6 weeks just to talk to them about water, wastewater. And we were going to investigate if any personnel were interested in that, or, you know, if it's something that we could feasibly do. We have a lot going on with students in the community, and I'm really proud of that work that we're doing. But I also want to recognize that it is not a burden necessarily, but sort of a burden on staff. It requires staff time. So I wanted to find out if we have had any conversations yet with personnel that might be interested in that, if it's something that we think is feasible, if it's something that we want to do.
Yes, and I'm going to hand it over to Chris, but I know that Chris and I discussed that, and also I believe Chris reached out to the supervisors to kind of start that process.
Okay, great.
Exactly. So I did broach it at the supervisors meeting. I think the fact that they weren't sure, and I wasn't exactly sure, like what is the exact time commitment people are committed to? Is it once a week? Is it 2 months? Is it 1 month? How often? I think we need to dial that in with Christine Correo, but there wasn't, you know, mostly the supervisors, I got, you know, sort of blank looks, and but I have talked to some staff that have shown kind of interest in this kind of thing, and they said they'd be willing to do it. So it looks like it's something we can do, especially if we limit it to maybe like 4 people or something like that.
Yeah, one of the things that we discussed in the management group, and also what Christian Correo briefly, was some of the logistics. So she was telling some of the students may need to be picked up or dropped off at school because they have an hour window. But if they're interested, especially vocational, it's hard for our ops guys to be working on a facility and then drive all the way to one of the high schools to drop them off, then go back and work on a facility. So
there's probably tremendous liability with that. I'm not comfortable
with
us doing that anyway.
And that's the other issue with it also. So we're talking about garnering a program where it's either starting a 0 period and they have a 0 in the first period, so they have 2 straight hours and they can have their own transportation here to the district, or having ability that they have, you know, especially if they're seniors and they get out at lunch, they work from after lunch further on. And that was just a brief conversation on if we could get some type of system to work, we'd have to figure out those type of logistics. So those things have not been worked out, but they've been already discussed both internally and with Christine.
So do you think that it's that we should maybe draft some kind of proposal and provide it to Christine and say, you know, here's what we can do. Here is how we would see this fitting into Vallecitos. Do you think that we should be the ones to do that? Or do you think there's enough interest that we can move forward with that?
Possibly. I think what we need to do internally is to kind of nail down where we may have room to accommodate somebody, and then work with those departments to see what type of work they're doing. I know from the general discussions on interns, our staff is looking to not only give back to the community through that program for kind of seeding the future, but also get some benefit out of it. So they would like to see an intern that, let's say, is interested in something like mechanical, work with that group for, on a set schedule for the whole semester, not only have them for a couple of days. So this way, not only they could actually teach them real skills, but then also get some benefit as far as they'd actually do some work. So it'd
Okay.
be kind of a benefit for both sides.
Okay.
So I think what we're going to do internally is look at our whole program, everything that we're doing, continue what the district's already committed to do, and see where new opportunities may arise where the district could get a benefit and also give a benefit to that intern.
Mm-hmm. Chris, when you spoke with some staff, were there some folks on the more administrative side that were interested, or so far we're talking about folks that are doing the field work, the engineering?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the next steps would be us assessing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Next steps would be us assessing where the needs are and kind of putting a framework around those needs, and then working with the school district to see if we could figure out a way to meet those needs. So last thing I want to do, and as you mentioned, is overtaxing a department.
Mhm.
So, and seeing if there's a need. So if we find two items that fit together, then definitely look for opportunities to move those forward.
Okay. So the ball is in our court.
Yep.
We will have some further conversations and figure out if this is something that we can move forward with for the benefit of the agency as well as the students.
Correct.
And do you foresee us being able to make a decision and start the program if we decide to do that by next fall or this school year?
I think what we'll end up doing is looking through that program and budgeting for it in the next budget cycle. So this way it'll be, for July it'll be in place. And then basically for next school year fall,
Okay.
we'd have it going forward. I don't foresee it moving forward in this time between now and July.
Okay. And, we do have a relationship with Mr. Ryan at Mission, the engineering teacher, that, may be able to provide us with some names of students that would be a good fit. We want to make sure that the students are interested and have the maturity. They are high school students, so have the maturity to be able to be on site doing the different functions that the staff, working through the different projects, making sure that there is a benefit to the agency too.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Fleet electrification discussion, CSUSM senior experience and proposal from Terra Verde.
Yeah, I'll lead this off and hand this over to Eric. So as the committee's aware, we did two items. We worked with Cal State San Marcos with their student senior project to do kind of a fleet electrification. And Eric will give you a little bit more detail on that, but it was basically an inventory of it. Overall, we got a product out of that. We were able to use that product and give it to our consultant, Terra Verde. And I don't remember the scope of when that was awarded by the board, but Terra Verde has been working forward on our fleet electrification plan. And with that, I'll hand it over to Eric.
Great. Good morning, everybody. So as General Manager Gumpel mentioned, Terra Verde has we've been they've been working for us to put together a report and a plan to electrify our fleet based on the advanced clean fleet requirement from the state. And what that is, it basically requires the district or everybody who has a fleet with vehicles over 8,500 pounds to start purchasing and electrifying their fleet. The requirements for the two milestone options are in 2024, 50% of your purchases need to be electrified. 2025, 50% of your purchases, 2026, 50%, and then starting in 2027 and beyond, all of your fleet purchases need to be electric vehicle or zero emission vehicle, I should say. It doesn't matter if it's a electric or hydrogen fuel cell. The other option, excuse me, for fleet electrification is the milestone option, and basically that's saying by a certain year you're going to commit to a percentage of your vehicles being electric. So like for an example with that, you would say in 2027 you would commit to 10% of your vehicles being electric, and in 2033 it would be 50%, and 2039 and onward it'd be 100% electric.
Are those years arbitrary?
No.
Okay. Can you repeat them again, please?
Yeah. So the one where you're saying you're going to purchase or a percentage of your fleet is going to be electric in 2027, it's going to be 10%. In 2030, 25% of your fleet, and 2033 is 50% of your fleet. 2036 is 75% of your fleet, and 2039 and onward is 100% zero emission vehicles.
And those are state mandated
Correct.
milestones. Okay, I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Great. So what Terra Verde did for us, their scope of this project was to collect and analyze the information about our agency's medium and heavy duty vehicles. They identified electric vehicle options and rough order of magnitude of costs. They mapped out a timeline for vehicle replacements all the way through 2034. They identified potential high priority or challenging vehicles, and then identified applicable electric vehicle charging locations and requirements, and also costs for infrastructure to build those. They identified applicable incentive programs, and then also some credit vouchers that we could get for the low carbon fuel standard credit program.
Were they basing it on the first option or the milestone option?
The first option, it's the excuse me again. It's the most feasible for the district.
Yeah, our fleet's actually fairly young. So if we're going with the first option makes most sense. Going with the second option, we'd be replacing vehicles that still have years and years of useful life left.
That makes sense. Have board members seen the proposal?
The proposal, yes, it was brought to the board in September.
It was awards for board members have not seen the draft study, because it hasn't been completed, but the proposal was awarded by the board. I don't remember the date, but September, October.
Yeah.
Sure. So the proposal that was put forward with the timeline that you're speaking about, have board members seen that?
The proposal, yes. That was approved by the board.
Okay. Okay. It sounds to me like did the CSU students have access to this proposal?
No, I believe the CSU submitted their report long before we brought Terra
That's
Verde on
right. It was
board.
in the spring.
Yeah.
It was in the spring of last year. Okay. Okay. So did the proposal include any type of revenue stream from providing public charging stations here at the district?
So the discussions of public charging stations here at the district were discussed. Most of them go through third party, charge point, all this stuff. So the revenue stream for the district would be pretty minor on that. And basically and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, we would pay more to SDG&E than we receive, or it'd be about a break even at most.
Darn,
And
okay.
Since we are a public utility, unlike we don't have access to some things that cities and counties have that could provide like state money to offset some of those costs.
Okay. And there are probably legalities around what we could do with that revenue stream if we were able to.
It'd be less restricted than our water and sewer revenue stream, but it'd still be some restrictions.
We're still bound by Prop 218.
Yep.
I guess. Okay. Okay. So what are the next steps then for this proposal and working forward?
Yes.
So really quick, I know right now we're working on finalizing the actual report. So the proposal is they're being worked on. They're going through the scope of the proposal. The report is being done, and at some point we're going to bring it back to probably the engineering committee, and then probably to the full board to present the item.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, we have received a draft proposal or not proposal report.
Okay,
and
that's what I was asking about. That's
Okay.
what I was wondering about. And
You
I
have
said
not- you have
proposal
not
because
seen
they're interchangeable to me.
Okay.
The report is what I'm keenly interested in because I knew it exists and I knew we hadn't seen it. So I would,
So the
that's
whole
something
board,
that's really, really exciting that
Mhm.
they are able to go through and they're looking at the data, they're looking at all of our assets, and it sounds like we're making good progress.
So through committee and through the board, there'll be a presentation, and the report, once it's not draft, final, will be provided. But we're talking a fairly long scale, and Eric, I don't want to put you on the spot, but for example, infrastructure needs. I mean, there's a cost just for putting the electric infrastructure here at the site. Do you have a kind of a scale what that looks like on the draft report?
Yeah, I have it right here. So just here at the Vallecitos headquarters, we're looking at 21 charging stations, and the estimated cost to have that installed for just construction purposes. This is not designed for level 1 charging, would be $192,000. And if we were able to qualify for some SDG&E rebates, they might require us to go to level 2 charging, which would up that cost about $100,000. But if we could go to level 2 charging, then we might apply for some rebates, and it could bring us, get us a rebate of $127,000 from SDG&E.
Currently, there's a bottleneck that we've been talking with Terra Verde about. SDG&E doesn't have the power infrastructure to even provide that to us. But the good news is all this is going to roll out over time. And the Terra Verde report, one of the values of it shows us that we don't have to build everything at once. And as we replace vehicles, we could keep on adding to our infrastructure, but we do have to bring the main components of the infrastructure and the actual total power that we need. The main charging infrastructure may not be in place, but all the cables, wires, and basically the ability to put them in need to be. So there'll be an upfront cost, and then we could add charging infrastructure as we move along. The cost for SDG&E and the time for SDG&E is still pretty far away, because SDG&E, and correct me if I'm wrong, SDG&E does not have enough power at this location to provide our ultimate needs.
Yeah, right now, SDG&E, we had a meeting with them maybe about a month ago, and they said once we have our plans finalized and stamped by an engineer, we can submit them to get the project started on their end, to have all of a new transformer and dedicated line for our charging facilities. And it would have to be dedicated because this would be on a completely separate meter, which runs on a different SDG&E rate. I forget the name of it or whatever, but their timeline, once we submit those plans, is 18 months before they would even, 18 to 24 months before they even break ground. And then we would be able to install after that.
Yep.
That doesn't seem to map onto the timeline.
It does not. That's why we wanted to give you that. So even with the timeline, there's going to be variances, and you'll see us moving forward with everything that this district can to meet it. And then at the end of the day, we'll be waiting for SDG&E for up to 2 years. And in the meantime, we'll be mapping out our vehicle. We'll be mapping out the progress. We'll be looking at, because for example, I know the F-150 Lightning is no longer in production, but those vehicles don't qualify. It's got to be the heavy duty vehicles, but we'll still look at.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
So
I know the USM students talked a lot about the F-150.
they didn't understand that.
Yeah.
So they don't have the gross vehicle weight rating. It's heavy duty vehicles. It's the F-250s, the 350s, the 450s, the 550s. The dump trucks, it's those type of vehicles qualify. That's what the state legislation, the statutes written around. So if we get 4 Lightnings, they don't qualify at all towards this. But we are still going to look at, as we get charging infrastructure, some are pool vehicles, some are higher mileage vehicles that like meter readers, so on and so forth, if it makes sense, just from a cost benefit standpoint, once we have some charging infrastructure. So right now we're kind of at a point where most of our fleet, is young, and most of our heavy duty fleet, as it comes rolling off, we're hoping that there's either a fuel cell option or a future electric option for them.
And there are exemptions if we're unable to have SDG&E is unable to provide power. I believe one of the exemptions is, let me find it, I'm sorry, I'm just not ready for that. Well, there is an exemption in there for it where they can, it's basically saying your utility is unable to provide you the power. So, and if you need to replace a vehicle, what you can do is you can purchase an ICE, internal combustion vehicle, and saying, we can't get power from SDG&E, we need this vehicle right now. But in the future, when we do get the power from SDG&E, this electric or this internal combustion vehicle will be regulated to a backup. And then we will purchase a new zero emission vehicle in its place when we're able to.
So what the board could expect to see is staff putting in budget to start down the process with SDG&E on upgrading the infrastructure, probably next fiscal year's budget. And that might carry on next fiscal year and into the following fiscal year. And then you'll also probably see budget items being added for our internal infrastructure. Because right now, if we were to, even if it was available, if there was F-250s, 350s that are electric, we don't have the means to charge them. Believe it or not, we wanted to put an electronic sign out front for posting and information. We don't have the enough electricity in our circuits to even do that. And that's not a high yield. We're maxed out here.
Sure. So SDG&E isn't the only source of power though in the area, right? Can we get power from community choice?
You can, but it still goes through their
I know
system.
SDG&E still distributes it, but
Yeah. The problem is they don't have the ability to deliver to our site.
Okay.
So there's going to be a new transformer and a brand new line coming down
okay.
for our site, and I'm guessing maybe some other sites too. But
Well, they have to. I mean, we're not the only ones facing this problem.
yep.
Yeah.
And
In some of the community talks and not community talks, some of the presentations I've heard of is the state made the legislation, they made the rule, but they never check with the power delivery companies. So everybody's in the same boat. And basically now that we're moving forward, it's chicken or the egg situation. It basically, now that the rules are set forward, all these public agencies are moving forward, it's going to force the power companies to upgrade their infrastructure, but the people asking for the upgrade are going to pay for that. So those costs don't include what we have to pay SDG&E to bring power to us.
I believe the language was something along the lines of the regulations were designed with the intent to advance electric vehicle adoption.
Yep.
Not necessarily saying that it was already there, because half the vehicles that we would need right now for our medium or heavy duty, say, for example, like a Vector or a dump truck, those don't exist.
And the industry's done this. If you look at CARB rules, when they set gas mileage limitations, when they first said it, everybody stated, how can we ever meet these MPG? And the industry figure out a way to do it. So it's going to be a lag effect, but we'll end up getting there. And the states had repeated success doing this over the years.
what about our solar panels? Can we route some of the energy from our solar panels that we already have that are existing to facilitate this effort? I mean, Terra Verde helped us with that already. Can we do something like that? Something creative? That we
You could.
Something else?
We definitely could use our solar panels to offset the energy cost that we would consume here, but we don't have the ability to even consume it here until we get that infrastructure.
Okay.
And on top of that, so I mean, all the vehicles that we would buy would be charging at night. So, we'd be charging solar, putting it onto the grid, but at nighttime when these vehicles are charging, we'd be charging it on peak and super on peak hours anyways.
Okay. Any questions?
I think you did a great job with the questions, and thank you for the update. Just to recap here, Senior Experience did their thing maybe a year ago. From that, we got just a taste of what we needed. Pass that off to Terra Verde at some point, maybe 6 months ago. We approved a contract for them for, if I remember correctly, about $100,000. That sounds about right.
I believe it was like 68.
68, rounding up.
Yeah.
68 of that. We now have the draft in, which you reviewed most of the top level items, and it sounds like we are well on our way with a timeline here of both updating the needed SDG&E infrastructure, and then as well as both the high priority vehicles and the rest needed to make this all happen on a timeline of coming to be determined, but soonest.
Well, it'll be a couple of years before
Yeah.
we really see real progress, just because we just don't have the ability.
Right.
SDG&E doesn't have the ability to
Yep.
even provide it to us.
Totally understand. Just summarizing everything for my help. And also, we have a young fleet, which is good, buys us time. As you pointed out with the F-150, it's had a couple of setbacks itself, so it's good that we get a little extra time in here to get kind of the next generation of EVs. And so that all sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the summary. Okay, any other comments or questions or anything about that? Okay, thank you for presenting on that. And irrespective of whether this comes to our committee, the engineering committee, I would like to see that report.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, the Rising Scholars opportunity, just to tee this up a little bit. A few months ago, we met with with the head of the Rising Scholars Program at Palomar College. The Rising Scholars Program is a group of students who are formerly incarcerated. And the idea was that we were going to potentially look at opportunities to bring them in for administrative-ish or engineering. They do have some engineers in that group. Internships that would enable them to work on a project, get their foot in the door, get some work experience under their belts. They come from a variety of different backgrounds. Some are customer service, some are engineers. And Dr. Kenny Whiteley was very enthusiastic about potentially having a partnership. So the last I had heard from the meeting was that we were going to look internally to see if there was an appetite for a department and consider piloting this project. So the reason why I added this to the agenda is I wanted to find out if we've had that opportunity to look and see if there are folks that might want to maybe have a project that we could pass off to a scholar so that we can pilot this project and see if we could manage it.
Yeah. Chris, you want to take the lead on that, or you want?
Well, I broached just kind of the whole internship opportunities with supervisors meeting we just had like a week ago. There's a lot of internship opportunities coming up, and the kind of consensus from the supervisors with them, what they really like is probably like summer internship, have a intern student 40 hours a week, June through the end of August, however long the summer is, that they can basically have every day. That would be their preference per se, is to have like full-time internship over the summer. That's what they're looking for.
So in the management meeting, we talked about the internship opportunities, and give you one example. Engineering would be open to an intern, but they'd want an intern working 40 hours a week during off-school periods, and maybe 15 to 20 hours a week during school periods on a consistent schedule. That's a little different than what we're looking at with the Rising Scholars Program. But however, it doesn't mean it can't fit within that program. So there's more discussions to be had. A lot of the other groups right now, for example, on the finance side, they're still staffing up, and thinking about taking on an intern is not currently in their wheelhouse, because they're still short staff, and one of the items we're going to be talking about is staffing for them. And once they get new staff, they have to train staff. And with any intern, there's investment put into them to train them, and then until they get up to speed. And then there's obviously some payback with them being productive.
Mm-hmm.
So really what staff is looking at right now is internship programs, kind of as we mentioned with the mentorship program, that provides a dual benefit where we could provide them with training, opportunity, and in some cases even pay if it's not a school credit thing. Mm-hmm. But we also get beneficial productive work out of them. So I think we're trying to gather right now, working with Chris, how much appetite the district has and how much capacity the district has for that, and where those departments are. And then the idea is we're going to reach back out to all the programs that we have potential starts of, to see which ones fit, whether it's that high school program or a program to Palomar or to a CSU. So
okay, so so it sounds to me like we are doing a reassessment of all of our opportunities with
Yes.
students. So then the next time this comes up on an agenda, then we should have a proposal saying, here's what we can offer to rising scholars, to CSUSM senior experience, to high school mentors, to Palomar College and Jacob Sheba. We will have that baked. That's what we're doing.
We're working towards that. I don't know if we'll be ready for next month, but yes, that's kind of, Chris and I have met a few times on this to talk about, because right now we have several different programs going at once. Let's get our arms wrapped around them to get them organized. Because right now with Chris and his staff, they kind of stack on top of each other. And for some departments, they get affected more than others. So we're trying to spread the load and also figure out where the best benefit is.
Yeah.
So our goal, and you're absolutely right, is to kind of have a more broad view of what the district can and where the needs are, and then come back to those programs saying, this is where we have opportunities. And I feel between what we have existing going, between what's been set up through the P3 and also what we already had through County Water Authority and other programs, that we could start kind of organizing these things. And we may not have enough opportunity for everybody, but at least the opportunities will be more beneficial both for the intern and also for the district. So, but it will take us a little while to put that together. So I want the committee to temper the expectations to say, you know, we may not have that next month. Just because right now we're in the start of budget season. So all the supervisors are working on that.
Mhm.
So
Understood. And I think that this is a useful exercise, and I'm glad that bringing all of these opportunities to the district has motivated us to do this, because I think it's a really important opportunity for our community and our youth, and we know that we're going to be facing a lot of retirements. So if we can try to get folks in to work in water, I think it benefits, you know, the students in the community. I totally understand that there does need to be a reciprocal benefit. The students get something out of this, as well as the district. I would encourage you to think about some of the entry-level positions, such as, you know, working in customer service or something like that in-house for some of these, you know, as a match for some of these skill sets, because historically we have not had interns that, you know, that are interested in those types of positions, but it might be a good fit for a high school student, or it might be a good fit for a rising scholar or something like that. So I want to make sure that we are thinking creatively about all the ways that having new people could help us and could help train folks on, you know, improving their skill set.
yeah, and one of the biggest needs that we've identified when we just going through discussion and going through our succession planning with human resources is the need for more vocational skills, electricians, mechanics, mechanical, water operators. You know, at the end of the day, those are where we see the biggest holes.
Okay, that's good to know.
And so that's where we want to understand it a little better for us, and then reach back out. So, I mean, that's not the only holes, but those are some of the bigger ones. So it's going to take us a little while to get our arms wrapped around this, especially during the middle of budget season. So, but absolutely keep it on the agenda. Sometimes won't have much update, but at least it'll keep us moving forward with it.
Okay. Okay, the climate progress report update. This
Yeah.
is tied into what we were just talking about, but you know, mitigating climate change is not solely a function of our fleet electrification. We have all kinds of mandates that are going to be coming through that we need to be paying attention to. So last time we spoke, we decided that we were not going to implement a full climate action plan. We were going to start, or at least not yet, we were going to start with a climate progress report focused on asset management, what we are already doing that can contribute to a climate action plan. So I would like an update on where we are with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to hand this one over to Chris, but we have started on that process. So
Yeah,
Chris.
good enough. I'll hand this out.
Oh, great.
President Boyd Hodgman here.
Thank you.
This is just kind of a draft, kind of a starting point for us. I'm not really
Give
a
one to
subject matter
Anthony.
expert on climate issues, but I looked at what the Water Authority had done with theirs, kind of followed their format. I think the thing I really want you to look at is there's a lot of different topics that we're going to get into, but I just wanted to lay out kind of a design, what it would look like. The biggest one is like there's a solar project page, and what James and I had discussed was probably with each of these projects, try to come up with, hey, what's the greenhouse gas reduction that we're getting from this, either maybe annually or maybe over the lifetime of the project, and then in turn, what's the benefit to the customer? What's their benefit from our efforts doing this? So there's obviously a lot of different chapters and topics that we're going to go through, but this was my first initial effort to draft up a climate action progress report.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for putting this together. And, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. And, you know, the point that I've made ad nauseum is that we're already doing things. It's in the packaging.
Yes.
Like we just bring it together and we can showcase all the things that we're doing that go a long way toward this very prescribed report that yes, county water authority is doing, and some other water agencies are also doing a little bit north of us. So I'm really happy that you put this together and that it looks like we're making progress because we can see where all the pieces fit. And it's like, it's been laid out for us. We can figure out where we can plug and play. And then we can figure out things like the fleet electrification, how that fits in. That's a heavier lift for us. But some of these we've been leaders on. We just need to tout it and we need to stick it in a report so that people know that we're doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
So thank you.
I think the intent is if you look at the last page, we're going to expand this list, and then for every item, be able to provide either a half page or a 1-page summary of how this benefits not only the environment but also benefits our customers. So at the end of the day, even if you have customers who don't care about this, they could see that this still is offsetting rate increases or making their electricity cheaper for that pump station that delivers water to them. So there'll be a dual kind of a co-equal goal on this report showing both environmental and direct customer base benefits.
If there's something else that the board or the committee would like to have synopsized with each like topic, just tell me. And I'm handing you this report, and I know you can't just read the whole thing right now, but this is for you to peruse. And if there's a different synopsis that would come from specific things, just help me figure that out. I could use help figuring that out.
Yeah, thank you. I know you've put effort into this and I'm grateful. Thank you. One of the board actions was also the incentive for electric vehicle driving amongst management that we have also adopted. And that is something that is in our MOU. So that could also go into, it's a small step, but it's something.
Well, and I could use thoughts on that because that one doesn't occur to me. So I'll take that note down. Managers, electronic vehicles.
Yeah,
but, there's certain things that, and I've reached out to managers and supervisors like, hey, what all are we doing? And, let's compile a list of this.
We're doing a lot. And I think that that's where we can all play a role in making sure that everything's captured because it all adds up. It all adds up. And that's for the benefit of the district as well as the environment. So.
Yeah. And just for the committee, the North County Recycle Water Agencies is looking at a joint climate action plan for the agencies, all the agencies that are involved in it. We're in preliminary discussions on that right now because the cities already have a climate action plan, but none of the water agencies do. And the issue with that is if one agency doesn't come through with it, all agencies could be penalized. So we're looking at it very carefully because you don't want to be held hostage and penalized as a group if one agency doesn't come through with their goals or requirements on their climate action plan. The good news on this item is because it's teamed with regional agencies, the climate action plan itself could have a benefit on getting grant funding for future projects these are more specific to recycle water and water reuse projects. But that is still something the district is keeping a key eye on. So this is still going to take 6 months or a year to develop, especially with 8 or 9 agencies involved. But and you won't hear anything from me for a while, but as it develops, it'll come to committee. And then at one point, if it does develop with committee support, it'd go to the full board.
What's the name of the organization again?
The North County Recycle Water Coalition. That's the agency we've been involved. It's not an agency, sorry. It's the group of North County agencies that have teamed together for grant funding for expanding recycled water and water reuse that Vallecitos has been part of since the beginning. 2011 is when we started meeting together. So it's not a governing agency. It's not a separate entity. It's just the GMs and technical people meet to advance mainly recycled water and water reuse jobs. And almost all of our grant funding that we've been successful on for Meadowlark has come through the joint efforts of being part of this group.
Who sits on that? I mean, what agencies are involved in that?
I can't remember all of them, but Livenheim, Lucadia, Vallecitos, Oceanside, Escondido, Santa Fe, although they may have just dropped out, Carlsbad, and I feel like there's one more.
Santa Leo Joint Powers or?
Oh, San Leo Joint Powers. Yes, thank you. So there's your 8 main agencies. We basically joined together for lobbying fees for both federal and state. That's one of the primary purpose for federal funding. And the Vallecitos has been successful with that. Our portion, which we all share equally, our portion of we've gotten close to $3 million in grant funding for our projects on that to date. So
That's great. Congratulations. Okay. When do they meet? And it sounds like it's kind of a coalition of folks that have joined together for mutual benefit. and
Yep.
It's not necessarily.
it's not an
officially
agency.
sanctioned.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not. There's no governance. It's not agency. It's just GMs meet or our technical people meet. We
Mhm.
meet usually on the first Mondays, and there's no board or action. And Livenheim is the lead agency that put the environmental document together, but we all share equally in the costs. But we all also get equal benefits of the grant funding.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good news. And it sounds like it's on folks' radar to develop a climate action
Yeah.
plan. It sounds like there are pros and cons to a group effort going forward. The con is the pace and potentially not every agency being able to bring their agency up to speed. And so you may not all cross the finish line at the same time. Correct?
Correct.
The pro is that everyone's talking and sharing best practices. And again, not having to everybody reinvent the wheel.
But yeah, and there's multiple pros on that side is the cost of a climate action plan, which for an agency like ours could be consultant fees over $500,000 plus staff time, would be divided now by 8 people or 6 people, however many agencies that join.
Mhm.
It'd be a more expensive climate action plan, probably closer to $1 million because it's multiple agencies, but it would still be divided by 6, 7, 8 agencies. And the other pro is right now the way, because we're a utility, when we go for grant funding, Vallecitos doesn't rank high in the system. When they check off, you get points for different things. So even with everything that Vallecitos does, we rank way below an agency that relies on state funding or for their revenue. Like for example, for a city, which
Mhm.
relies on state or federal funding. So, or have a larger disadvantaged community. So when we team together with multiple agencies, it makes our application for grant funding better than if we were to do it on our own. So there's potentially a larger benefit in that, because right now going on our own without teaming, our funding application doesn't make it past the first round.
Mhm.
But when we team together, we usually are very successful.
That's great. So is there anyone in this group charged with making other folks at the state and federal level aware that we are doing this and that it could be a best practice for other regional organizations to come together and promote that this is a way to get more money, even though you do have to
Mm.
share it, get more money and meet these goals faster?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only reason the group exists, because the main thing that we pay for in this group is we're joint effort in federal lobbying.
Mhm.
So we are paying a federal lobbyist to help sell our group, the regional nature of our group, and the mutual benefit of our group, and that's what's provided success right now. So I mean, remember, we're one of 10 at one point. I think there's 8 now. Vallecitos portion was over 2 million, go with 3 million, but the other agencies have received that or more. And if the agency receives more, it reimburses the other agencies in pro rata for lobbying efforts.
Mhm. Okay, great. That sounds like a good coalition and a good agency.
It's worked out well since 2011 for us. We're still in it at this point.
All right. Anything, Director Grosset? Okay. Okay. Shall we move on? Anything
Yes.
else, staff? Okay. The per diem flexibility for community appearances or educational opportunities. So this would be, I added this to the agenda because there are a lot of opportunities in the community that are that board members could potentially attend for the benefit of a program that we are working for or working toward on the board. Right now, we are limited in our per diem reimbursements, but having some flexibility within reason and within limitation as an update to Ordinance 221 would incentivize board members to attend community events. It would incentivize them to hear from constituents in the community and build community relations. So, for example, going into the schools to talk with the high school students in conjunction with high school organizations about working in water. That would be an opportunity, maybe one of two extra opportunities that board members could potentially take advantage of. These types of appearances are beneficial both to the district and to the community. So I would like to have a discussion, and I'm not sure what the process would be, but have a discussion about revising Ordinance 221 to include, for example, 2 additional board appearances per month, as long as the number stays below the 10, or we could revisit the 10 because that's the number of meetings that we are allowed reimbursement for per the ordinance. So that's the tee up for this particular item.
Okay, so I could talk about the 10. The 10 is a state regulation, so we
Okay.
cannot revisit the 10.
Mhm.
However, ordinance 221 can be revisited to see, because currently, as the committee members know, it's the items that are already on 221 that are listed out that are automatic per diems.
Mhm.
Everything else requires some type of board approval.
Mhm.
So just to repeat, my understanding is you're proposing to add up to 2 events per month that a board member at their discretion could go to representing the district as functional without having prior board approval.
Correct. I think that it allows some flexibility. I think that it is, it would become onerous with every, for example, I would like to attend the Women in Water conference. And it wasn't clear to me that that was something that was reimbursed.
Mhm.
But I would, I would encourage some of my fellow board members to also attend the Women in Water conference. But without the flexibility, we are limited to, to the per diems that are pre-specified. And if we are not increasing the number of appearances above 10, we will still be within budget because that's what we base our budget on. So
Yes.
this is a net zero cost, essentially. It's just an administrative pass-through or administrative efficiency that I would like to see implemented.
And then as the committee members may be aware, Director Pennick requested at the next meeting another item that's ordinance 221, which is the number of board members allowed to go to conferences
Mhm.
At a time. So I don't know, I haven't talked to him about that, so I don't know what his thoughts are on it. So that's something that also could be discussed. If I don't want to have to open up 221 twice. So opening up, we might as well open that up and discuss both. That's not agendized today for that item, but it's something that should be at least keep in the back of your mind.
Okay. I see those as 2 separate things. And I guess what I would like also is more transparency around how our budget is derived for board member per diems and attendances. It's my understanding that we always fall well within our budget.
Yep.
We don't expend all of that money. It might be the case that we, blow the whole thing up and we say, okay, here's our budget divided by 5. That's something that we could perhaps talk about as well, so that we don't have so many stipulations and regulations around, if there's a budget and the budget is fair, then board members can do what they want to do with, attending conferences or not attending conferences, attending appearances, attending meetings or not. That is a very simple way to do it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a budget concern either way.
Mhm.
So it's whatever the board decides as far as a policy. And
Mhm.
then Wes goes ahead and budgets accordingly for that. So so the current budget's derived based on the existing policy.
Mhm.
So, and I don't want to speak for Wes because he's not here. So it could be up to 10 meetings a month is assumed in the budget.
Mhm.
But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah,
so.
let's find out.
Yeah, I can find out. That's easy enough. Okay, so is there further discussion here, or you want this to be brought back to the board?
Well, if it's coming up on the agenda at the next board meeting, then perhaps that's the opportunity to discuss it. Y-
Yeah, it's not, I thought we had, could I be wrong? Maybe we pushed it. Director Pennick asked for committee meetings. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so it may get tabled anyway. So he requested it, it's on the agenda, but he won't be in attendance. So we'll probably table that and push it back at the board's pleasure. It'll be up to the full board on that. So,
Okay. Okay,
but as far as staff's concerned, it's really at the board's pleasure on 221, whether it allows that flexibility or not. So, you know, there's no, once the board makes that decision, we can make the modifications to ordinance 221.
okay,
Just, can I add to that
of
real quick?
course.
I agree with the concept of what you're saying, and I 100% think that educational things like going into high school is a great opportunity and should be encouraged and incentivized. I think the spirit of 221 in defining exact qualifications is right in that it keeps everything within boundaries that the community can expect as well. So I would suggest, if you're open to it, throwing out a pool of new opportunities that could be added to that as opposed to leaving it open door.
Okay, so adding some parameters based on past opportunities
Correct, yeah,
and potential opportunities that we could foresee that would
Yep.
be reasonable.
100%.
Okay, I think we can, I think that there are a lot of ways to slice the pie. And I appreciate that we would want to put some reasonable parameters around the reimbursement and the per diems. You know, the more I think about it, the more I kind of like just having the pie sliced 5 ways. And then we could use our discretion, you know, based on going to conferences, going to meetings. And to your point, there would be limitations on what would qualify. But that would save also a lot of paperwork. It would save a lot of paperwork for the district if we didn't have to necessarily fill out you know, the per diem sheets and then get them signed, et cetera. I don't know how else, I mean, presumably we do have to keep track of it somehow for audit purposes, but if if all the directors had a budget, we could figure out how we would outline that budget for per diems and reimbursements. I guess not reimbursements, but just per diems. So,
Or in ordinance 221 doesn't actually go into how the district budgets for it. That's a completely separate item. And I believe no matter what, there still have to be tracking to make sure that whatever the board members attend, it was properly, you know, proof that it was signed up, proof that they attended.
mhm,
So this way, board members are being reimbursed properly for attendance, because it doesn't happen as often, but there are times that a board member can't make a meeting that they signed up for, so there's no per diem. So
Correct.
because of something came up. So that proof needs to be due, no matter what, however it's budgeted or not.
mhm,
I know certain cities do a set amount per month,
mhm.
but that amount usually is very low. And then it's up to the city council member to go to do whatever they would. That minimum, they have to go to the city council meetings. But those amounts are usually much lower than per diems provided by agencies.
Yeah, I am. I'm not. I don't know that. I don't know that that's true or not true, but we, you know, we are reimbursed for things that we attend, and it sounds like we are. You know, I'm asking for potential flexibility. Director Pinnock is asking for more regulation. If we did just do something like what cities do, then it would simplify the whole process. And then Director Pinnock his concern would be accommodated, my concern would be accommodated, and we could put some parameters around it, but then it would just be more simple. So I will be probably raising that issue again at the full board meeting.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments?
I would just say that, I think the system works well right now. It's very transparent. All of the sheets are scanned so the public can see. So I think in terms of transparency, it's a system that works well. I don't personally feel that it's a large inconvenience on my life to fill out the sheets. And I think maybe in terms of simplification, maybe technology could be added to it. And there are expense apps that exist these days, so maybe that could help ease stuff. But I'm hesitant to kind of go towards a system of just saying each person, each director is allocated whatever X amount and is able to spend within the discretions of certain system without additional tracking associated with it.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for no tracking. I think we have to do that because we're audited. I mean, and that is, it's the right thing to do. I'm suggesting just a different way to go about it, that we, if I have raised concerns about equity and Director Pinnock has raised concerns about, 4 of us attending the same conference. I've raised concerns here about other appearances that are for the benefit of the district and our community that are not reimbursed. And I think that there's a way that we can design this so that it is so that it is fair and still within budget, still budget neutral. Well, not budget neutral, but still within the budget that we have allocated every year. Because I think we're well under every year. Yeah.
Totally agree. There's
Yep.
definitely a way to do it. We, I guess, need more solid proposals from both sides to kind of come to fruition for everyone to make decisions on. But
Okay.
there's definitely something to both sides of the not argument. It's not an argument. It's more of a kind of conversation, fluid conversation.
Yeah, agreed. And I think what would be helpful, again, I mentioned, understanding how the budget is derived for director per diems, but also perhaps to Director Grosset's point, understanding what requirements are for transparency, for reporting. Those are 2 pieces of information that I think would be helpful so that we can know that we are in compliance with whatever is needed and, whatever is beneficial for staff as well, because, just doing the bare minimum of what is required for compliance may put a burden on staff that we're not willing to exercise. So let's find out those pieces of information too. Good. Okay, number 6, EDC paid internship opportunity. Director Grosset.
So the Economic Development Council of San Diego has a opportunity to match up to 3 interns, I believe. You could take 1, you could take 3, specifically for engineering. And they come from Cal State San Marcos, from Palomar, from UCSD, and a couple of other local schools. And they're all qualified candidates who meet certain criteria. And the EDC actually pays them a pretty good hourly rate. I believe it's $25 an hour. Also provide them with the opportunity for laptops and possibly even reimbursement for the to and from when they come on site. And in the past, my own company has worked with EDC on this. We had 3 great interns from UCSD last year, engineering interns. They were extremely professional. They got a lot of the experience. And given that we're considering, an engineering intern, this is a great win, I think, for everyone involved. The San Diego Economic Development Council gets to, hooray that they got an intern placed, and the intern themselves get paid a decent living wage. and get to learn a lot from the water district. And the water district gets a high-level candidate from one of these great local institutions that is more than willing to participate and learn. So it's a great opportunity, and highly encourage us to pursue this as potential in the internship review that we have considered. Now, it is limited time. It needs to be signed up for, I believe, in the next week, at least signaling our interest. So I think at the very least, we should initiate that. And then you can make a decision on whether or not we would like to move forward with this. But like I said, it's a win for everyone. So put it out there on the agenda to be discussed.
I think it's a great opportunity, and it sounds to me like, since we're doing the reassessment of all of our partnerships with students, that it should be also considered in part of this reassessment. And I wonder if someone would it work in a way that maybe we have already accepted our one Palomar intern, but Jacob Sheba, for example, has someone else that he thinks would be good. Can we refer them to EDC and bring them in through that doorway? Is that a way that it could work?
You could refer people to EDC. They don't necessarily have to take the candidate, but the candidates themselves meet certain criteria, and it ends up that most of them are disadvantaged in some way, and that's why they meet whatever the requirements of that program are.
Okay, that sounds like a great avenue also, because we know the demographics that Palomar and CSUSM serve, and this might be another opportunity to bring in some of those youth and those students. Okay, so we'll fold that into what we're looking at then.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that we always struggle, and this is why we don't have an engineering intern, is because Cal State San Marcos and Palomar doesn't have an engineering program. That's they have computer science, computer engineering, but that's more civil, environmental, mechanical engineering, kind of those more traditional engineering programs. And that's the type of internships that I know Jason's looking for. So ideally somebody who's studying civil engineering, which some of these other schools have. So I'll have a human resources just check with Jason on his needs. And if we could get something in, we'll fold it in. Either way, it's going to be put into the list because
they do have
SDSU
and UCSD in the program as
yeah,
well.
And the intern that we had in engineering when I first started was a UCSD student. So we had an engineering intern for about a year and a half when I first started here at Vallecitos. So
you had an intern for a year and a half, the same intern or
same
different?
intern.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just we hired an intern. They work full time during winter breaks and summer breaks. And then this one went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, so only worked when they were basically in town for vacations or not vacations, holidays. So during that off period. So
General Manager, I did fill out the interest form. So
you did? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we're our toes in. We'll see where we go from there.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
We have so many opportunities, and I think it's such a tremendous service to the community to work with these organizations and partner with them. So let's not disregard any opportunity, and when we have a look at it, let's come back and figure out how we can move forward, if for a few of these, if not all, if possible. Okay. Number 7, discuss moving the 1 month to 1 year retention for district emails. And I thank you for bringing this to the agenda. I have several questions about our existing policy and existing protocols, but I will turn it over to staff to present on this issue.
I actually asked Matthias to join us on this. Matthias is our Chief Technology Officer. He's in charge of IT and also in charge of OT, and also in charge of a lot of these email retention and other policies. So Matthias.
Good morning. It is still morning. Yes, it's 11 o'clock. President Boyd Hodgson and Director Grosset. I have been tasked with taking a look at and reporting the existing resolution 1437, specifically, which is the records retention policy, specifically the email retention policy. To give you a brief overview, the current policy as it is written differentiates between specific and non-specific email. I'll go into what each of those means. So specific email is relative to an actual construction project, for example, or policies that the district has, human resources matters, significant financial expenditures and accounting transactions. And the current policy is written such that the specific emails that were just mentioned, printed hard copies are to be retained within the subject file, within subject files. The non-specific are emails that are typically transitory in nature. For example, someone sends an email inquiring about something that isn't an official correspondence, or a staff member sends another staff member an email saying, hey, do you have lunch plans? Do you want to get together and go to lunch? Those aren't necessarily meant to be permanent records or filed. So in a nutshell, we currently keep 30 days on hand, and we do differentiate between the specific and non-specific emails. That's the current policy as it stands.
Okay. So I have another question just based on something that you said. You said something about printed hard copies. Are we printing every email?
Well, we have the option to actually digitally store emails, and we have digital archives as well. But the current policy says printed hard copy. I'm only reading from that, from the existing resolution 1437. I might have to defer to Anthony on specifics as to if we are actually printing every one of those. I know that we have a provision to save things digitally, and our current retention policy is 30 days. However, we have the option, and we currently have the system set up so that we can have permanent archives within our existing system.
Yeah, so most staff members create what they call a never delete file, and they put categories in there, and they'll move items into the project folder. So for example, when I was in engineering, I have specific project, Twin Oaks, San Marcos Intersection, whatever those are. I move emails specifically into those until the project was completed. And
But
then
that's your subjectivity. That's not based on any kind of official.
yes, but all staff has a never delete file, and so they, instead of printing out emails, they archive their emails in their never delete file. Currently, that's the way it's done.
From the board member's perspective, and I'm interested to hear your perspective too. There is a duty for board emails to be available for public information requests. Are board member emails available even past the 30 days because they are archived? For example, if a member of the public wants to request, all emails pertinent to XYZ, I may not have that email anymore because it's deleted after 30 days, but someone can find that email, right, and provide that to the public?
Correct. Ultimately, as the policy stands, it's the individual recipient, for example, yourself or anyone that receives that has a district email address. It's their responsibility to go in, determine whether or not the email in question is specific or non-specific. If it's specific, then you need to archive that in one way or another. If it's not, then it's going to fall off within a 30-day period.
And I think
First of all, that's good to know, because I don't remember receiving any training about specific versus non-specific. So that's really good to know. Secondly, not all of our board members have Vallecitos emails, which personally, that's an issue that needs to be rectified from my perspective. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that, I'd like to understand your reason for putting it on the agenda and what the concern is. And I'd like for you to speak to your experience or context around it.
Thank you. And yes, similarly, I was unaware of the marking of it. Just in the light of transparency, I think it's a wise decision to move to a 1-year retention. I think that it just makes sense. I've talked briefly to Council Gilpin about it, and he suggested that his clients similarly have retention periods around that range. So I think it's prudent to reevaluate 1437 to be modified to a 1-year retention policy. Additionally, perhaps when it comes to specific and non-specific emails, retaining digital records based on maybe certain domains associated with projects and stuff of that nature to be automated. So if, for instance, you're working with some developer or consultant, their domain should be marked as, whatever the extended retention period would be to meet additional transparency on top of what should be a 1-year period at least. Yeah, to your point of requesting records and the public requesting records, I think it's, again, prudent for at least that period.
Mhm. Yeah, so for example, if someone requested, if I got, well, I'm not sure how the freedom of information requests come in, but if one came in and it was forwarded to me, someone wanted something around, XYZ topic, I don't know how to find an email from 6 months ago, and I wouldn't want to not provide the information because that's big trouble, right? So I think that there's a lot of training and education around this, but it's also the case that if the person requested something from all the board members, how does that work? Not all of us have emails, and I think that that's a standardization that we also need to talk about. If we're going to revisit resolution 1437, part of that also needs to be, and I think it is very reasonable that we all have official emails with the district. I know that Director Grosset and I both have that. I think that
believe
should be
that's it.
something.
So,
Yeah.
really quick on the public records request, and Anthony, you could jump in on this too. So the policy basically limits it. So if somebody, and correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody asks for information or a policy is a 30-day, a 60-day, a 1-year, that's all the information they get. They can't ask for information 6 months ago if our policy is 30 days, unless the board member saved it or the specific individual saved it, for example. Then they could ask for what you have. Is that correct? Or
correct, and that's part of the Public Records Act itself. We do have a records retention. We do have our email policy. So currently, as it stands, if it's 30 days and they asked for something 6 months ago, we would just simply reply, we have no available records. Simply for that matter, they're not bound. We're not required now. To General Manager Gumpel's point, if it was something specific, if it was tied to a contract file or something like that, like we're talking about, if something was transactionary and you need to save those emails, we would put a request out. If it was in your case, man, like, hey, they're looking for this request. Did you happen to save this email? It would be a simple yes or no. If yes, please provide it. No, there's no one home that's bound to that.
Okay.
so the policy is kind of a double-edged sword. It provides less staff work because in the 30 days, if somebody asks for something more, but it also means that if somebody asks for something that's 6 months ago, it may or may not be available because it was erased. As far as extending it from 30 days to 1 year, I believe Matthias did some research on that. Matthias, you want to provide some information?
Yeah, I was able to pull several cities and a handful, half of a handful of special districts, and a majority of those that did reply had between a 1 and 2 year retention. I know historically I've worked for a city. They had the specific city had a 30-day retention about 10 years ago. That was subsequently changed. I believe now they're at a 1 year retention. So it wouldn't be outside of the norm for us to make a modification. And I would like to add any changes that we do make. This isn't a technical. It's technically feasible to implement these things. Ultimately, it's just a matter of determining and setting the policy. And ensuring that the policy is crafted such that it's very clear if there are changes that to be made, and then we could happily make those modifications.
So with that, if the committee's interested, obviously this would go into, if the committee's interested in moving that to a year, we could put that in the committee report. And my recommendation is, as the committee members, just bring it up to add this to the agenda. Staff could work on that policy and bring it back to the board for consideration.
I would recommend we move forward with that.
I'm supportive. I'm wondering the 1 year mark. Can you speak a little bit about why you wanted the 1 year mark?
1 year seems very reasonable in terms of both individual's ability to manage that amount of data as well as the organization itself. I would be open to considering more, but it sounded like it was a range there. And then also from my just brief mentioning it to Council Gilpin, it sounded like he also had a majority of 1 year additional clients there.
And to be clear now, we are still within compliance by having a 30-day policy. Legally, we are in compliance. Okay. I am comfortable, but I'm supportive of moving this forward, but I also want to discuss board members having Vallecitos email addresses. It is a protective mechanism and a separation that I feel better about having. As public officials, we put ourselves out there, we open ourselves a lot to public scrutiny. But, for example, during ethics training, we've learned that it's possible that our personal emails might might be subject to information requests. And I think that there should be a firewall there. So I would like for that to also be discussed.
Yeah, I know that there's no issue with staff, from staff side, providing every board member with a Vallecitos email address. Let me double check with Council Gilpin to see if that's something that we could require or something that the board member has freedom of, and what those mechanisms are. I don't know enough about that to really speak about it at this meeting. So let me circle back. What I'll do is I'll talk with Gilpin, or I'll have Anthony reach out to Gilpin. We'll get that information and share it with the committee members. It may be something that is in our current policies that need to be adjusted, or maybe something that we may not have the authority to do. I don't actually know.
Okay, perhaps even if the authority is not present, there can be some incentives, and there could be some talking points written about why a board member would want that, and what could potentially happen if they don't have that and someone requests information. I feel like it's a protective mechanism, but it's also it's a matter of professionalism. I think that constituents want to make sure that they're dealing in a professional way.
I agree.
Yeah.
And definitely should explore it, and in conjunction with this, it should be considered for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think it's unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable at all, in my opinion.
No. Okay, thank you for doing that background and for bringing that forward. Thank you for bringing that forward. And I think that we have a plan then. Okay, number 8, consider options for reducing customer bills through opt-in for auto bill and bringing bill printing, mailing in-house. Okay, Director Grosset, this is also something that you wanted to bring forward.
Yes, thank you. So, it's challenging to reduce rates, but it's something that should always be at the forefront of our minds, and just trying to be creative, and at the suggestion of President Boyd Hodgson of the ways in which we do this. And auto bill is certainly something that I've been presented discounts from multiple organizations to opt into. I know it's not something that everyone's capable of doing, and I know it's also something that that can lose sight of a bill can be a dangerous thing for certain customers as well. So that's why it should always be voluntary. But there is a cost associated with printing and mailing bills for each customer. So I think a voluntary opt-in for a reduced bill should be considered. Additionally, printing bills and mailing them in-house is something that's become a lot easier with time. There now exist printers that do this solely and automatically, almost like magic. They can be set up with relative low cost, and the printers themselves cost very little these days. So if we're outsourcing something that costs several dollars per bill, that represents a couple of percent on everyone's bill per month. So it could be brought in-house and automated, in my opinion, with relative ease these days. So if we could figure out a way to do this, it would be great, and potentially lower rate customers on a not too difficult basis.
I agree. I think that that these are good ideas. I thought that we already incentivized electronic billing. I know that when I moved here and signed up for Vallecitos, I think I got like $150 back or something for signing up either auto bill or just electronic distribution of bills. I can't remember which one it was, but I think this will create efficiencies, and I think it will reduce paper. This is also something that can go into our climate action plan, for example, is something we're already doing. And bringing the bill printing in-house, I think that, if we can incentivize people to sign up more for electronic distribution, then there are fewer bills to print, and perhaps we can manage that. Maybe that's a project for an intern, for example.
So I asked Lisa Spader, she's our supervisor in charge of customer service, to come here because she knows more about our opt-in program than I do. I know we are restrictive. For example, we cannot give a discount on bills because of our Prop 218 and the way we are functioned under that code. So, but I know there was a discussion at one point on the cost differential between mailing out a bill compared to electronic. And if there's a savings there, that was a potential. And the board went through that. It may have been a while ago. I can't recall, but I know that we had discussions with the board member. So unfortunately, I was in engineering. I was paying attention. So I remember the subject, but I wasn't paying attention close enough that I could repeat it. So would you give a quick update on what our opt-in options are and if there are any incentives on it currently or in the past?
Sure. That's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Good morning. So yeah, the incentive to the $150 to touch on that one was your deposit, and because you're a
okay. All right. Thank you.
bill payer, we refund that to you. So as far as the bill print in-house and the bill suppression, I wasn't prepared for this meeting, so I apologize. Got asked to come this morning, so I can get that information, how many customers are on bill suppression, which is a paperless. But a lot of times the customers are still calling us, even if they are on the bill suppression or it's tax season and they want that information. As far as the in-house for the printers and stuff like that, we definitely have to look into that. Where are we going to house them? Who's going to maintain them? What are the hours of operation? Right, currently we can upload our bills up till 6 p.m. Our business hours are until 5. Our staff is here, may have to work overtime because we couldn't get the bills by 2 p.m., 3 p.m. And who's going to be here after hours to stuff those and, all the other logistics. So definitely something to look into. And I think that Wes is prepared to
And I
look into
apologize.
that.
And I apologize. So Wes was originally going to be here. He had a family issue. So I literally went to Alicia at 9:00 today.
Well, thank you for being
to
here.
pinch it. So I apologize for that. And also with Mike too. He had to pinch it.
Yeah.
And then Mike did do some quick update because we have gone this route about outsourcing compared to insourcing our bills before. And Mike, you have some information on that?
Yeah, so normally, sorry, got the notice at 9:15, 10 o'clock meeting. So normally, I'd have like 50 pages of data, which I don't have right now. So the data I do have, I want to make sure it's complete. So these are preliminary numbers, please. It looks like to print through InfoSend, our bill payment, it's probably about $6 a year per customer. So I want to make sure of that. So just write that down in like
With a question mark.
erasable in a pencil or in erasable ink. And right now for the postage,
66 cents.
yeah, but I think we get a discount. I don't know if they do it like the bulk rate,
Right.
but right now they're only charging us 52 cents. And I don't know, what is the stamp nowadays?
66.
66, somewhere around there. So it's about a 14 cents per mailing that we have. And I kind of did a quick calculation. I don't know if we could get the bulk rate if we do it in-house, but if we can't, that 14 cents difference is about $18,000 to $20,000 a year in postage savings. So I'll have more numbers for you. It definitely requires more research and things like that. So I'll have all the numbers, be able to post. And it's not only just about the numbers too. It's about ease, efficiency, you know, and things like that. So, you know, the pros and cons of all that, it will definitely have by the next time we need to bring this together. We do have about 22,500 customers that we mail out to. Like Alicia said, we'll find out how many are on bill suppression or where they have to go online. Is there an incentive? Do we currently have incentive? I thought you said was.
Yes, so we ran an incentive probably around the time that they were discussing a $10 credit for a customer who signs up for the auto pay. It's a one-time. We usually offer that when you sign up because that's mostly the time that you're going to be engaged. You're getting a new account. You need to know when your bill's coming. I'm going to sign up for auto pay. Call us back. We'll verify it. We'll give you a $10 credit.
One of the things we can do, and if it's okay with the P3, these items typically, because it has to do with more of the finance side, take it to the finance committee. And I believe Director Grosset, you're on the finance committee. So these items, because we have a finance committee meeting that will probably be scheduled sometime this month for our first budget, we could also add this item along that, and it'll give Mike and Wes a little bit more opportunity to kind of dig into these numbers to give you a little bit better information.
I think this is great background, and I appreciate you pulling it together at the last minute and for being here. So just so I'm clear, I would never have guessed that bill suppression is what we call paperless billing. So that's good for me to know. So now I know what you're talking about. So it's about $6 per year per customer to print the bills. That's sort of the cost-ish to print, not mail, but to print. It's about $6 per year per customer. To mail all of the bills to the customers that have the printed bills, it's about $18,000 to $20,000 a year. You think, but it's ballpark.
It's 18. Sorry, for the postage. The postage itself is about $76,000 a year, and that's at that 52 cents. So I calculated real quick. If we had to pay the full 66 or whatever that is, it'd be about $18,000 to $20,000 additional.
Oh, I
per
gotcha.
year.
Okay, all right. So potentially like almost $100,000 potentially.
Correct.
Okay. And we've got 22,500 customers that get the mail. I mean, out of our 111,000 customers, 22.5 get.
We have the population's 111,000 customers. We only send out 22,000 about bills per month. So there's a difference between population and customers.
Okay, 20. Okay, yes, thank you. So 22,000. We send out 22,000 bills per month.
Yeah, we have is it 14 cycles? How many?
15.
15
now.
cycles. We have 15 billing cycles a month. Because by the time we read the meters, get that information in, process it through. So this is almost continually ongoing for the whole month for
Yes.
customer service and meter readers. In the future, we have a pilot study budgeted right now to switch to AMI, which is automatic meter reading, which if that were to happen, we could reduce the cycles and it would change our business operations significantly. We're still a little ways away and there's a major infrastructure investment for that, but the board will be hearing about that in the future also.
So how many customers get auto pay right now? That's what we don't know. We don't know because you were
It
asked.
changes
like,
every day. Yeah, so
Okay.
we can get it updated.
Okay, that would be good to know. Just roughly what percentage of customers are getting mail versus auto pay. I mean, I think I'm supportive of automating and I'm supportive of trying to bring it in-house, provided that we can, there's a cost efficiency.
And real quick, there's a difference between auto pay and bill suppression too. A bill suppression means the customer doesn't get the bill. Alicia, correct me. Doesn't get a bill. They could go online and get it.
Mhm.
Auto pay is just you automatically have your credit card or your ACH, most likely ACH, right? ACH bank account automatically take the monthly service charge from you. So you could still get a bill, be ACH or bill suppression, get an ACH. So there's Just wanted to clarify
Understood.
those.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I think it would be, my suspicion is that most people that do auto pay are also getting the bill electronically. It would be good to know if there's a discrepancy there as well. So that number would be interesting as well.
Agreed.
So unless, sorry,
I was just gonna say, it'd be great to know if there's some other districts, and I'll certainly be asking around at conferences and stuff that I go to that like has mastered this, because certainly someone out there has probably figured out the perfect way to do this. And then the other thing too is like envelope stuffing, the printer stuffs the envelope these days, so you don't have to worry about that in terms of labor.
so the good news is we've been talking with many other districts about something similar in that AMI technology, although it's a big upfront investment. On the back end allows for significant savings on billing, because you get to have, theoretically you have all billings at one cycle. And even if you were outsourcing it, it's still cheaper to do it all at one cycle. Not that we would go that way, so don't panic. but because now everything's automatic meter read. There's still rereads, errors, so on and so forth. But it also has, the staff could be redirected and some staff could be repurposed. So there's different opportunities with that. We're just starting a pilot study on that, where it's automatic. So the automatic meter reading, basically right here at district headquarters, they get your data on your meter in 15-minute increments. Currently, right now, they go out 14 cycles or 15 cycles, and drive by meter reading. They drive by and it uploads that data, and that data is now then uploaded into the district system. So it's significantly more instantaneous, more user-friendly, although it does have a cost. So I think one of the things is when we're looking at that also kind of opens up opportunities for some of the subjects that we're talking about here today.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Just to recap, the staff plans on bringing this back to Finance Committee with some updated numbers and reporting on that unless we hear any objections. We'll still give an update to the P3, just probably via email to P3 committee members. So Director Grosset, you'll hear it and see it twice, so to speak.
Roger that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is a long meeting, and I know that we have many staff members here. I would, and maybe you already did this, but I know Chris is here for a couple of other items. If we have long meetings like this, I would ask staff to try to coordinate who's speaking what and allow them to come and go efficiently, because I know everyone is very busy. So I don't know if that happened here, but I know, Chris, you've been here the whole meeting, and I know you've got stuff down at the very bottom as well. So I want to recognize that I'm trying to be cognizant of those things, and hopefully we will not have an additional meeting this long, and perhaps this is a great reason why we should not skip meetings, for example, going forward, because things pile up. Okay. Number 9, permanently adding bill reduction opportunities, low-income household water assistance program to bill notes until expired. Director Grosset.
Yeah, I've just really been an advocate for these programs. I think they're great, and given that they cost us nothing, all of our customers that qualify need to be made as aware of it as humanly possible. And it's not that difficult to add to the bill notes from my understanding. So I think this, and I think there's maybe one or two other opportunities that customers may qualify for that should be considered to be added to that as well. But until they are completely expired, I think it's prudent to add them to the bill and make our customers aware of them.
I agree, and I'm glad that you brought this forward. It's been a while since COVID-19, and I know during the COVID-19, the height of the pandemic, folks were losing their jobs, and this committee took great steps to try to make sure that we were promoting opportunities for people that were having trouble paying their bill, particularly during that time. So I would like to continue making our customers aware, and perhaps also potentially adding it to the website in a way that folks can see it and understand that there is help available. Not everyone has fully recovered from that time. And we know that, since we are being faced with high inflation numbers, that more people are going to be struggling. So thank you for bringing this forward. And I'm supportive of that, to continue to communicate in explicit ways with our customers, but also potentially adding it to the website.
Right. So I know that the staff has been working on several programs to get the information out. We'll make sure we're up to date with all this. The only information we currently have that Wes gave to me last week was we did put in for the arrearages program, money that was still left over, and it's been accepted. If it gets approved, there'll be another, I forgot, $65,000 to $76,000 back to the district for arrearages. So that's not going to customers directly, but it'll be paying the district back, and we'll be forgiving past due bills for that amount. That's the only update I have on it currently. I know there's other programs out there, and I know that Wes and his team has been pretty forward thinking about going after all programs available. However, if there's additional opportunities for stuffings or opportunities we could put on the website, we'll definitely follow up on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward. Okay. Number 10, staffing update.
So this is a 3 items in one. We got basically Denise Aviles, our human resource manager, and Bridget Anderson, our analyst here, to talk about them. The first 2 items are just brief, and they're actually in the board packet already, which kind of tees up the 3rd item. So I don't want to steal their thunder, so I'll hand it over right now.
All right, good morning. HR has, as General Manager Campbell said, 3 items that we wanted to discuss this morning. So the first 2 items will be a staff report that the General Manager will be presenting because we will be at a conference. These 2 items are requesting the board approve a higher hiring step than the General Manager's current authorization allows. The General Manager is authorized to approve hiring at up to step C without board approval. Both candidates are highly qualified and would be joining us from previous governmental agencies. The 2 positions that we're looking at are the Senior Compliance and Regulatory Specialist and the Payroll Accounting Technician. Both of these positions are extremely important and critical to the district, and they are coming in at a higher range than the General Manager can approve.
So those 2 are going to the board. They're already in your board packet. And unfortunately, you'll have the B team, which is me, presenting on them since they're going to be at a conference. So be easy on me on that. That being said, I do want to take the opportunity, if you have questions on those items, questions on the recruiting, maybe a quick update on the recruiting process, because it took us a while. We've been without those 2 positions for close to a year or more.
Just about a year.
Just about a year. And so finding them has been difficult. Bridget, you want to give a quick update on those, the recruiting aspects of them?
Sure. The Senior Compliance and Regulatory Specialist has been vacant since last April. And then that position is always reported to Denise's position. So it was decided to wait until she started in June so she could assess the needs. It was changed slightly and brought to the board, I think in maybe September, for approval to change. We went out for that. We had difficulty recruiting people with relevant experience because it is a very niche area, having regulatory stuff in a water and wastewater district. But we do have that qualified candidate now. The payroll accounting technician has been vacant off and on since April 23. It was filled in June, but then she had to leave by November due to a family emergency.
Okay.
So she had not gotten very far in her training, and our current staff was still doing a lot of the payroll processes that they're doing right now. Very critical position, and we recruited for it twice last year with almost no luck whatsoever. The candidate that was selected was the only candidate that showed up for the interview. Luckily, she was excellent. So that was a great choice for us. And then when we started this recruitment in November last year, after she left, same thing, very limited qualified candidates, very few people with government payroll experience, which is very different than private sector. So
as you can see, one's a payroll person, which is critical for all employees to make sure they get their paychecks correct. But the other one actually is a safety compliance. And since then, we've been using consultants to help out. Denise has been working and our ops manager is taking a large percentage of that load to do that position work. So we've been without for quite a while. So we found good candidates for both. They'll be coming forward for the board. If there's any questions that the committee members have today, we'd be happy to answer them because the experts here are in the room. After all, at the board meeting, I'll have enough information, but I won't have their knowledge. So.
I'm not prepared to really ask a lot of questions on this item. It sounds like these items are necessary, and bringing a function in-house. I'm always supportive of that rather than pay consultants to do that work, because then we have invested in our future as an agency. And I am supportive of those things. So the three, did I miss? You
Nope,
just
the
covered
third
the
one's
two?
coming.
The
Yep,
third
two.
one's coming. Okay, all right. I'll wait for that one then.
All right. Do you have anything on this item?
No,
No,
thank you
okay.
for your hard work on it, and congrats on finding 2 qualified candidates, and hopefully they work out.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you. All right. So the third item leads into the first 2 items, which is we would like to discuss increasing the general manager's authority to be able to hire within the full range, step range, which is A through G. Staff is currently conducting research with our neighboring agencies to see how the general manager's hiring authority works in those agencies. And we're looking for the committee to give us feedback because we are hoping to bring this item to a future board agenda. And so currently our salary schedule looks like this. And so his authority we're asking for is to do the full scope, which is A through G. These are considered longevity steps, so those just go along after they've completed these. But hiring in, we're requesting that A through G is looked at for the general manager.
Currently, the GM authorities at step C. And one of the things I asked staff to look at is what do other GMs have as far as hiring authority, and also the frequency, because for the longest time, coming to the board for hiring above step C almost never happened. And Glenn approved several. And in my first month of being GM, I've been already asked to approve several. So I want to know if this is a trend, if the next trend is really hiring, because most of the people that come to water agencies are people who work at other special districts or cities that kind of know the lay of the land. So they have experience, they have tenure there, and now they're coming to an agency where they want to stay for their longevity, so to speak, which is great for us, but they're also not brand new inexperience. So usually they already make salary well above ABC. Each one's about 5%. So well above, the entry range. So that's something that we're looking at bringing to a future board meeting for board consideration. And we wanted to bring it for P3 because that is a policy currently in our hiring practices with the GM authority. So we're looking for the P3's thoughts on that and questions.
I would just say that, it's prudent to be able to hire quick. So it's important for you to have that objectivity to be able to make those snap decisions in order to retain the best possible candidates. So I'm in support of it. Perhaps there could be a limitation or guardrail on, the amount. So it's, just rapid hire 5 people or something like that. But I, in general, trust all of your expertise on these suggestions.
I'd like to see what the study reveals so that we can get an idea of what the operations look like in other places. I'm curious why we are thinking about this in terms of steps rather than a specific dollar amount, because it seems like the purpose of the policy is to guard against specific dollar amounts being exceeded. So why are we thinking about this in terms of step C plus and not, for example, $140,000 plus? Why do we think about it that way?
Well, I would say probably because we're a step district and not a merit district. So where I previously came, we were a merit district and I had the full authority to hire within the full breadth of the range. Here, because we're steps, we have the authorization, stopped at C. Other organizations I've worked in that have been STEP organizations usually let the superintendent or the assistant superintendents have the full range of hiring because again, timeliness and having to go back and forth. But there's a lot more negotiating that goes on with a merit district than there would be a STEP district, especially because the STEP districts usually have limitations.
Okay, understood. Thank you for that. I think it sounds like we need a little bit more flexibility. I'm not sure that I want to open it up to complete flexibility because that is the job of us as a board to make sure that we have our fingers on that. I want to make sure also that I understand that there would still need to be a process if we are looking at hiring upper level managers. There would still need to be a process to come before the board. Is that right? So that we can make sure that it's in budget alignment and things like that.
Well, the board definitely sets the budget, so so they could approve or not approve a budget. But the board doesn't have direct input on hiring staff except for the general manager and of course the legal counsel.
Correct, but if you were, let's say that you, as it is right now, you wanted to make a hire that was without the A through C, and it was maybe D, E, F, then you would need board approval to make that hire. And that way the board would be notified that there is a need and we would have a discussion around that, right? But if we opened up the hiring for A through G, then that discussion would be absent, correct? Okay, I think I'd like to see what the other districts are doing. I think that it sounds like there needs to be more flexibility, but I don't necessarily think that we need to have a binary decision here where we either have a too strict policy or we remove all parameters. So that's what I'll say about that.
Right, so in the future board meeting, we'll bring forward information with this item for consideration with information on what other agencies are doing in their current policies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that background too. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was number 11 also, right? Okay. So number 12, permanent special agricultural water rate program.
Go ahead, Chris.
So it is time to certify. I think I broached this maybe last time, but it is time to certify permanent special agricultural water rate customers. These are customers that get a reduced rate from the county water authority. We in turn pass that rate on to these customers. The water authority wants us to make sure that the customers sign appropriate forms, that they're using this water for agricultural purposes and not for just getting a discounted rate at their house or whatever. The process includes basically filling out a form. There's probably like 75 or so of these customers. Some of them are difficult to reach. Their phone numbers don't ring. Their email address goes nowhere. Letters get unreturned. It's a big time for me to do this. It's probably why I'm not as far along in the climate action progress report, but it requires a lot of hand holding and interaction, and then follow-ups and follow-ups and follow-ups. So there's the certification process where they just need to basically fill out a form. Second process is they need to be in compliance with what the water authority wants them to do. The water authority worked with the Farm Bureau to implement this permanent special agricultural water rate and basically determined that if a customer is going to get this rate, they're going to need to be on one of 4 lists. One of them is what's called a general agricultural order list. It's basically like a land use analysis. Like if you were to have a dairy, you'd need to make sure that the manure and such wasn't coming off your property, going into creeks or your neighbor's property. Next one is organic, like an organic certification. There's a process for that. Third one is pesticide application. A lot of ag customers use pesticides, and the County of San Diego, along with the County Water Authority, realize that if you're applying that much pesticide, you probably have a legit farm. And then the last one's called certified growers, basically people that would bring their wares to a farmer's market, making sure that you actually get inspected so that you're not just somebody that runs up to Vaughn's and buys a bunch of lettuce and then puts it out and pretends to mark it up. So there's those two processes that we're going through right now. And then the third one is the Water Authority, kind of in a rotation, wants to have a tour of customers, 3 of our customers that are in this program, actually bring Water Authority staff to the actual site and have them look and make sure it's legit. We're going to Star Pine Nursery on Rancho Santa Fe. You all may be familiar with that nursery, but it's an organic nursery. Walton Farm, Walton Lemon Farm, Randy and Kristen Walton's lemon farm up in kind of behind San Alejo Hills. They're also organic. And then for whatever reason, I'm just doing an organic tour this time. Going to go to Hochto Kanoko up in North Twin Oaks to visit the mushroom farm that's up there. So just want to give you an update on it's a different hat that I wear. And, not every customer likes to fill out these forms. You get some folks that live up in the hills that, have their house and an orchard between yourself and their house. And they don't always take kindly to bureaucrats showing up on their property. So it's in process right now. So just giving an update on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. And I know that you've spoken to me about how you enjoy this relationship building with these customers. And it does require some hand-holding and some repeated attempts. I wonder if when the new compliance person is hired, if they can help with some of this outreach, or maybe you don't want to offload it because you're invested in the relationships with some of these customers, but that might be something that we could think about, because I know it does take your time.
Well, and I think the relationship building is fairly important, and it's interesting in that the same ones that are difficult to get in touch with are the same ones to get in difficult to touch with in subsequent years. They're always hard to get a hold of.
Okay.
Maybe I should send a carrier pigeon. I'm not sure what the right answer is, but
Okay.
ones that are hard to get a hold of are just hard to get a hold of. They don't
Yeah.
answer their phone. They don't have an answering machine. It just is what it is.
Mhm.
It's on purpose.
Yeah.
They don't
Okay.
want to be contacted.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm finished. Mhm.
Do people abuse this program? Have you found?
That's the big fear that I think the Water Authority has, that somebody may just, have a few carrots in their front yard and try to get an ag rate. I've never really, a long time ago when I first got here, I think I ran into something where there was a few orange trees in the front yard, but the parameters were different back then, where you were supposed to have a full acre. That's no longer a requirement now. And Hochto Kanoko, I mean, they're in a building, and they, the Water Authority used to talk about orchards and acreages, and you don't grow mushrooms out in the sunshine. It's just not the way they grow, but they're still,
By and large, nobody's really abusing the
yeah.
program.
So I've
Okay,
never
that's
seen
good.
anything like that.
And then how permanent is permanent? Is it transferable? Like if Walton sold his grove and they decided to build a hotel on it, do they get the ag rate?
No, because I mean, one of the things you fill out when you're filling out the certification form is that you are actually growing for commercial purposes, some sort of product.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All the questions I have. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Do we have any cannabis growers in this program?
We do not, that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So a lot of avocados, obviously.
Some amateur ones.
Yeah.
They
But
don't get the rate.
a lot of avocados, a little bit of citrus.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
We have had some illegal.
But they don't get the rate. I guess.
They weren't paying for anything. They actually tapped into
That's a
they were
different issue.
stealing water.
That is a different issue. Okay. All right. Interesting. And just for the benefit of the public, the folks that are enrolled in this program, they do get a reduced water rate. Can you talk a little bit about that reduction and what the trade-off is for being able to reap that lowered water rate?
Yes, and the County Water Authority puts together a fairly complicated math program, or what's the right word? Mathematical formula to algorithm. That's the nice word. To split out the emergency storage water and the funds that go to emergency storage. And so they get the reduced rate based on not being included in that emergency storage. And if we go into some drought restrictions, these are the first customers that have to reduce. And so that's kind of the other side, the double-edged sword. You know, you get the reduced rate, but if things go bad, you don't get any extra water. So that's kind of the split on that. And Vallecitos also has an ag rate. It's not as good as the water authority's rate, but I think a long time ago, customers were really concerned about that reduction of just being able to only get, you know, if you have to reduce 30%, then you got to reduce 30%. And they approached the district, and so the district has its own rates. So it's not as good, but there's a certain amount of customers that have that agricultural rate as well.
And so these three that you spoke about, they are county water authority rates.
Yes.
Do they also have VWD rates or no?
Some of them probably do, in that
Okay.
if it's combined residential agricultural, your first 26 units are at the residential rate. So
Okay, so that brings up another question. If this is something that's required by the water authority, why are we having to make the investment in time to corral everyone? Why doesn't the water authority?
I think it's because it's too massive for them to handle, and they really don't know who the end users are. I do.
Do we get some kind of incentive or reimbursement or anything from the time that
No,
we
you
spend?
know, maybe a couple lemons, maybe, I don't know, you know.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, you know, people have asked this of me before, similar type questions, and you know, everybody loves a farmer, and you know, we'll all get hungry by and by. So growing food is a good thing to do with water. So
Okay, okay. I was just thinking about the time investment of staff, because I know this does take your time.
yeah, and it's typically biannually, so
Yeah.
it goes by every 2 years.
Yep,
But
I remember the last time.
yeah,
I went door to door for those folks that were difficult to get
yeah,
a hold of and they were difficult to get a hold of at their doors as well.
right.
Some of them.
Yeah.
And it's very hilly. It's a very long walk. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that update. Anything else? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Okay. And the seed library, that's also you, correct?
Yeah, so this is fun. I get to have some fun. You guys get to have some fun.
Good. Good.
So I am going to bring this up, but I probably also, want some help? You know what? Let me just.
Oh, it's a big reveal. Yay.
Yeah, hey, Denise, come help me, will you? Do I have it? I think you have it. So this is a fun reveal, but I get no credit for this. This is Lisa's work. Lisa has fabulous talents, artistic talent, creative talent, and she figured this out. She came up with this. She researched it. So this is our seed library. Nice bee on the and this is going to go out in the garden. Here's some examples of some of the seeds, packets with information, and then a scannable
QR code.
QR code. And the hope is that people will not only take seeds, but then after they have the plants flower and grow, that they'll bring them back.
Can we brand those seed packets? Can we brand those with a sticker with our logo on the back?
So, sure.
If it doesn't,
I think we got them from the Audubon Society, so probably they're gonna get credit for the kickoff, but maybe as they come back,
okay.
then we put our logo on them. Super cool. But this will get mounted in the garden, probably on 2 posts. It's gonna be Steve's job to get it mounted, but I don't know if you can see the native seed library from the Audubon.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
We need to protect it, obviously.
Yeah, so she has shellacked it, but I think it does need another coat on it.
Maybe a little roof over it or something.
maybe, so this is
Yeah,
just.
that's beautiful.
the One thing, and she picked up.
She
She
paint that?
found this at I think a garage sale. So I
Okay.
think she petty cashed it. And then,
Did she do the artwork on there?
she did.
That's fantastic.
beautiful.
Yeah, she does. She
Yeah.
does really cool stuff.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so when will, and what's the are we doing like a thing? An
So I
event
think
around it?
so. And probably during the week, I don't know that it has the magnitude to do a weekend event.
Sure.
But probably a weekday event. And I think these rains may be impacting us. Steve will have to put some posts in the ground and mount it.
Yep.
So, the weather plays havoc with things, and this is one of them. But there's not really a lot more to do except for get it mounted and put it out in the garden out there.
And promote it,
Yes.
and so that everybody understands the purpose of it, and take a seed, leave a seed,
Yep.
those kinds of things. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. And thank you,
yeah.
Lisa. Thank you for doing such a great job on
when I
that.
first saw it, because she kind of described it, and I was like, we'll see.
Mhm.
And then just how good it looks, how polished it looks, and then the containers inside, because you don't want the seeds to get wet.
Of course.
Because then you got a problem. They're going to start trying to sprout within the case. So, yeah.
Yeah, that looks great. Thank you for sharing this.
Sure.
This has been an idea that's been in the works for a little while, a few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Yep. Looks good. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your work. And thank you to Lisa too.
There you go. She's
Yeah.
the one that really deserves it. I just get to pull the cover off.
Yeah. Great work. It was a great reveal. Yes. Yes. Thank you for bringing that. Any other comments, questions? Okay. I think we're down to our last item. Palomar intern Logan Crawford.
So this should be pretty quick. Our intern Logan Crawford is here. He started last week, and I gave him a tour, and then he interviewed staff on the second floor on his second day, and now he's with meters. I already checked in and saw him. So Logan Crawford, and I need to make a correction. I never said specifically that he looks like Ed Pedrazi. It's that he reminds me of Ed Pedrazi.
Oh, okay. Well, that's important. Yeah.
Although, he does have red hair. So, yeah.
So he has started and he'll be with us for 6 weeks.
Probably longer than that, through basically the end of May.
Okay. And he is our 6th Palomar intern out of Jacob
Fifth,
Sheba's group.
right? Fifth, I think.
It's 5 or 6. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe he's our 5th.
I think he's our 5th.
Okay.
And
Ben, we had Ben.
Yep.
Okay.
Ben Crane, Evan Fox, Flavia, Logan, and
The second one.
the first guy.
Oh, I thought Ben was our first guy. Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And he's actually, I just saw him. He's in the full raincoat outfit.
Oh, did he
walking.
go past?
Yeah, he walked past a minute ago. I was like, oh, I should call him in. I don't know where he went. But so
Okay.
He's
So-
with meters today. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oof. Tough.
Right.
Tough day to be doing that job. But thank you. Thank you for all of your work bringing him in. And yes, thank you to our meter readers who do not take a break on days like this.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you to you for putting on the program and him for being a part of it. Did want to add before we wrap up that I saw the internship, the scholarship advertised in Water News Network.
Good.
Yes.
Although I think they got the old scholarship amount in there, so you might
think
ask
they
them
did.
to
Yeah.
issue a correction to get us in there twice.
Yeah. Well, but your group has also put out another
Yes.
another update to that. And I presume that's going to be coming to the P3 committee to hash out the details of with this new amount, how it's going to work, et cetera.
Yeah, and as long as we're talking about it, it's doable to send a check to the university if that's the board's direction. So if that's the board's direction, we can do it that way. So
Okay.
Well, yeah,
I think we can talk
plan
about
is-
it and figure it out.
Yeah, the plan is at the next P3, we're gonna have the scholarship as an agendized item, and we could talk about not only the amount, how to divide it, also the mechanism which the P3 will recommend to the board.
Okay. Yes, putting some parameters around that process, I think is a good idea, especially now that we're dealing with an increased amount. And I think one of the great things with innovating, and the scholarship program was innovative, is we are building the plane a little bit as we're flying it to start out with, but now with the wisdom of experience, we can now start to understand, how it's being used and put some standardization in place. So I appreciate that. Okay, anything else? Great. Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.